Jim Mueller, thanks for being with us tonight, taking care of us. We appreciate that. We're going to begin our meeting this evening. Councilmember Barker will give us a prayer. Then we'll be honored to hear from retired Lieutenant Colonel Stephen Russell, who will give us a thought and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Being Veterans Week, we thought it'd be good to have a veteran come and join us. So Stephen, thank you very much. Councilmember Barker, if you'd begin with prayer.
Yep, you bet. Our dear Heavenly Father, we're grateful that we can gather tonight as North Ogden City Council and as residents of North Ogden. We're grateful for all that Thou hast given us and for the blessings and freedoms we enjoy living in this state of Utah and the country of America. We're grateful for our veterans and for all they have done to support and defend us. And please bless that we'll have an enjoyable meeting tonight and that we'll be able to discuss everything on the agenda and have a productive meeting. And these things we say in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Councilmember Barker. Mr. Russell.
I will speak to you for exactly 3 minutes. What is patriotism? Some ask, how can we be proud of a country whose founding constitution was seriously flawed by ignoring slavery? Are we to cherish a national heritage that prior to the civil rights movement in the 1960s reflected institutional racism in employment, in access to public facilities, in housing, in voting rights? Just as a marriage between two good people performed in a sacred place in time might manifest flaws and require learning and improvement, so we as a nation learned, matured, and grew in our commitment to liberty and justice for all. Our founding documents remain sacred and a standard to the world for self-government by a free people. Our national heritage makes our nation a shining city on a hill to all the world, an example of the power of free enterprise and the power of free people to shoot for the stars. During World War II, the United States made a significant shift from isolationism to global leadership. We mobilized our industry, and with sacrifice of blood and treasure, we saved France. We saved Great Britain. Indeed, the United States of America saved the entire world from tyranny. And remember, after World War II, this country with economic aid raised up Germany. We raised up Japan. We raised up Italy. I believe that no people in history have ever been more generous, courageous, willing to forgive and forget, and willing to help the world than have the Americans. And in the late 20th century, it was America's might that led to the collapse of the Soviet Union and the freeing of millions of people in Eastern Bloc countries from the slavery of communism. Today, because of the United States of America, more people throughout the world live in freedom than any time in history. So what is patriotism? It's loving our history and cherishing our heritage. It's respecting our founding documents and our founding fathers. It's remembering those who served to make and keep us free. It's showing respect for the flag, for those in the uniforms of our armed forces, for our national anthem, and for the Pledge of Allegiance. Patriotism is giving public service. As patriots, we pay our taxes with integrity. We stay informed and we vote with wise deliberation. We obey the law. We serve on juries. We take joy in 4th of July celebrations. In short, as patriots, we are good citizens who maintain a deep sense of love and attachment to the United States of America. Thank you. I would now like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. And may I remind you, in 1955, President Dwight Eisenhower modified the Pledge of Allegiance with the phrase, "One nation under God," and he did not put a comma in it. So we say, "One nation under God" with no pause, okay? I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Barker, for inviting Mr. Russell, and thank you, Stephen, for those comments and leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll now start our meeting with the consent agenda. Council, based upon tonight's agenda, are there any conflicts of interest that you feel need to be disclosed at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 2 on our consent agenda. This is the approval of the October 8th, 2024 and October 22nd, 2024 meeting minutes. I believe you had those in advance from our city recorder. I'm assuming if you had any comments that you have forwarded those, but if not, that would be the time to address any issues you have with the minutes. Okay, seeing none then, I would look for a motion to approve those minutes as stated.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Pulver. Do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
Thank you,
Second.
Councilmember Barker. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes of the October 8th and the October 22nd City Council meeting minutes, please say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We'll now move on to item number 3 on our agenda. We're going to hear from the esteemed Dylan Hill this evening in regards to the final approval, acceptance of the views at Rockwood subdivision. Dylan?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The Views at Rockwood is a subdivision that was recorded in November of 2022. Previously came in September and got conditional status for their improvements. The developers, Henry Walker, and the home builders, Henry Walker, they're all one in this development. The improvements include water, sewer, storm drain, sidewalks, streetlights, a slurry seal has been installed, and they've performed for 1 year. There is one section of sidewalk that got to go paint tomorrow just because it's on a building lot that's not been complete yet. But when the goes through the building process, it'll be replaced. All the improvements are up to the city code and standard, and it is the recommendation of our city engineer, Eric Casperson, to grant final acceptance for the improvements in the roadways.
Okay, council, do you have any questions for Dylan? Yes, Councilmember Dalpaz.
Is the sidewalk that you're talking about that raised portion?
Yep.
That's
I
like
got it.
this?
I'm gonna go take care of that tomorrow morning.
Okay. And then just in general, when we have just remind me, when we have a subdivision like this, which is about halfway built out, how do we ensure that the curbing and the sidewalks are good throughout the end of the process when we've, just because I know there's quite a bit of work to still be done.
Yeah, I think I counted today, there's nine lots that are done and built on with homes there and leaving about 20 or so left. The building department, when you get issued a building permit, you have to post $1,000 performance bond for this that covers the sidewalk and the curb and gutter as they get through. So
Thanks.
Henry Walk will have to post that.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Dalpaz. Any other questions for Dylan? Seeing none then, Dylan has asked us to give approval, final acceptance of the views at Rockwood subdivision. Do we have such a motion?
Mayor, I move that we approve the final acceptance of the views at Rockwood subdivision.
Thank you, Councilmember Severing. Do we have a second to that motion?
Second?
Thank you, Councilmember Dalpaz. Any further questions or discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Dylan, very much. We'll move on now to item number 4. This is a discussion or action to appoint a city council member to serve on the Weber Communities That Care CTC board. And I've had discussion with several council members, and we've asked Christina Watson to do this. We'll kind of make a trade with one of her positions, but Christina has indicated she'd like to fulfill that assignment. So are there any questions or comments? Christina, do you?
I'm excited to serve.
All right. Any other questions? I would then be looking for a motion to approve that recommendation to appoint Councilmember Watson to the Weber CTC Board. Do we have such a motion?
Mayor, I move that we appoint Christina Watson as the council member that will be involved with the Weber County or Weber Communities of Care on the board.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Delpez. Do we have a second to that motion?
I second that.
Thank you, Councilmember Severing. Any other questions or discussion? Councilmember Delpez?
Yes, I had the opportunity to do this for not so long, and I just took new employment, and the new employment is a little stringent on being able to get out to lunches, and that's usually when their meeting is at noon on weekdays. So I anticipate, as I've been with my employer for longer, that I'll have a lot more flexibility in the future, but I do appreciate Christina helping out.
And we'll be reassigning someone to the senior center board, relieving of that responsibility. So be aware. Okay. Did we take a motion? We took a motion. We take a vote yet? Okay, all in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We'll now go to our active agenda. And this evening, anyone that's present or online, John, if you would let us know. If anyone raises their hands, we'll now have public comments. And if you'd like to make a public comment, and if you're here in the building, please step up to the podium, state your name, and if you're a resident of North Ogden, and do the mayor a favor and limit your comments to no longer than 5 minutes.
My name's Scott Barker. You need my address too?
Just your resident.
That's good. I forgot my address. It's good to know. I recognize everybody out there. It's scary. Anyway, this is something real quick. I've had several people in the community approach me and talk to me about dogs off leash because it's becoming a real problem in places. And this just last week alone, I had 2 people I approached with their dogs off leash, not just one dog, but 3 dogs at a time. And they basically blew me off that it doesn't matter. It's no big deal. And one guy told me he approached a guy whose dog off leash. Oh, you must have been the one that called the police on me. Don't worry, the police came. I put him on leash and the police left. I took him off leash because they don't really care. It doesn't matter. And I'm starting to see more and more dogs off leash than before. And I'm not quite sure if the sign, when it says they'll be prosecuted, what that means. Because people have talked to me, said that doesn't seem to have any value, no teeth in it. So I'm finding more and more people don't really worry about it. I see in Wadman Park, 2 Dobermans running loose off and on over by amphitheater dogs. One guy every day, he's there, throws his lawn chair out, lets his dogs go. Now, I understand the dog park's not a very pleasant place. I can't think of a kind word to talk. It's pretty ugly. And they like a nice place for dogs to run, but I'm wondering how long it's going to take before somebody gets hurt because of a dog off leash. And the owner has no control over them. And that's happened. The guy's dog's been attacked twice by dogs off leash. And the people just, so what? I had one day down by a Barker Park when my grandkids were younger and walking along and 2 dogs come up and then my grandkids went nuts. They were screaming. And the guy would not call those dogs off until I threatened him. Now I talked to police officer about this. We'll just take a picture. So you take a picture and you send the picture and so what? You're going to find out the next day, 2 days, a week, an hour, and how they're going to find this person. There just doesn't seem to be any teeth in the law. And if there's no teeth in the law, we shouldn't have it. Because there's no teeth in the law, people are going to just start ignoring it. And it's going to go on and on because there's no teeth. I'm not sure if you guys can do anything about it. It's just like I've had people come to me and talk to me about it. That's a concern they're having now. So I'm not sure what can be done or whatever, because it's a tough deal. it's a hard deal because police can't be everywhere at all times. They have other things they have to do rather than monitoring dogs. I don't like to monitor dogs. So I'm not sure what can be done. It's just an issue that they've asked me to bring up.
Let me just respond quickly to that, Mr. Barker. You probably saw recently, Chief Einen wrote an article about the need and the law itself to keep dogs on leash. But you hit it on the head. By the time somebody calls and the police get there, they're either gone or they've put their dog back on leash. But the chief has informed officers if they see dogs roaming while they're on patrol to shortly address the issue. But that's the problem we have,
It's a
Yes.
tough one.
is how do we, enforce that? Because by the time somebody calls and the police get there, they're usually gone.
That's right.
But we have had discussion with the chief and he understands our desire to have that enforced. But we're surely open to any additional ideas on how to do that. But that's exactly what happens. Like the guy said, yeah, police show up, I put him on the leash. As soon as they're gone, I let him off.
You know, it's not an easy answer.
No. But I just want you to know that the council has addressed that. And we have had discussion with the chief about that. So there is an awareness,
Okay.
but
I'll
as
let
you
them
indicated,
know.
yeah, let them know that the council has addressed that issue. We have had discussion with code enforcement and the chief.
Okay, appreciate that. It's
Thank
good
you
to
for
see you
bringing it.
guys are still up here and doing a good job. And
Thank
still,
you.
and you can still smile while you do it.
Thank you.
Council. Philip Swanson, North Ogden resident. Councilmember Watson, you're in for the time of your life. The CTC is an amazing organization and you will change lives and save lives. Suicide awareness being a major portion of what they do, and you will literally save lives. I envy your opportunity to serve. It was a great time. You had a great meeting on Friday with some training, and I was able to tune into most of it during the day. In one particular part of the meeting, kind of towards the end, Mayor, you referred to yourself as the Snoop Dogg of council. It was kind of interesting. You talked about, The Voice. I don't watch The Voice, but I'm familiar with it. And, Snoop Dogg's kind of consultative counseling role. The only problem is you don't really look much like Snoop Dogg. You just, kind of the antithesis of the look. So I have a gift here for you that
Awesome.
some accoutrements that we'd like you to don that will help you take on more of that Snoop Dogg persona.
Perfect. Perfect. I'm in for it. I'm in for it. That's a really nice boat, Mr. Swanson. That's really nice.
No expense spared for the mayor
I'm almost
of
afraid to open. Oh,
this fine city
I'm in.
that we have. So
This is good. This is good.
we have the obligatory large link gold chain. Yes, yes,
Yeah, yeah,
yes, yes.
yeah. We've got. Yeah, yeah. I'm
You'll
in on
want that
this.
one as a CPA. You'll appreciate this. And we have the dollar sign emblazoned in rhinestones on a gold chain. Yes. Because he is the master of the budget.
I'm good. This is good. The discussion for those who weren't joining in and those who don't watch The Voice is, they counsel each other on who to pick for the best singer. And Snoop Dogg always goes, he goes, well, if I was picking, but I'm not. And I said, that's how the kind of the mayor is, Well, if I was voting, oh, but I'm not. So yeah, this is good. I think I'll wear this to my meeting tomorrow.
There's a number of rings there for you in addition to the ones you already wear.
Yeah, oh, yeah. What's this? Oh, this is a little
A
bracelet.
little bracelet. I don't know. That might not
Okay.
fit your wrist.
I'm good.
Oh, there's
to
one
remind
more,
me.
just
This is
in,
good.
in that little glasses pack, if you would.
Oh, wow. Glasses. Oh,
That's
yeah. I
probably
like
the
that.
most important part of the entire look
Oh, yeah,
is,
now we're talking. Now
there we go. There we go.
we're talking. All right.
Okay, council.
I'm good.
Thank you for the great discussion that you had on Friday,
I'm
Mayor.
good.
Grateful
Good.
for your leadership and
Oh,
your,
thank you. We do need a little levity in government every once in a while. So that's good. But
and it's great that we live in a community where we can have a little levity in our government. Thank you.
is there, I was looking for a certificate in here though for some piercing. Is there anything in here? For like some piercings?
I do have a free tattoo if you so desire.
You know, I might. I
Okay,
might.
it has to go above one eyebrow though.
Okay, good. Well, thank you.
Neil, like, you got to get this for posterity.
This is good. I'm kind of liking this because you can't see my eyes now. You don't know who I'm looking at, right? Thank you, Councilmember Swanson. That was very thoughtful, very thoughtful. All right. Any other public comments this evening? Yeah, that kind of put an end to public comments, didn't it? And he did it under 5 minutes too. That was great. Anyone online, John, that would like to comment?
No raised hands, Mayor.
Okay, maybe at the end of our meeting, there'll be further comments. All right, let's go to item number 6. And this will be led by our planner, Ryan Nunn. This discussion is an action to consider a zoning text amendment, ordinance 2024-21. And this is related to residential setbacks on restricted R lots. So before Ryan starts, I have a question. Who knows what an R lot is? You're the fire marshal. You don't count.
Well, I listened to the planning commission. So
Okay.
I have an idea.
All right. Do you want to tell the other council members what an R lot is so we can have a discussion?
Well, as I remember, an R lot has somewhat of an exception to it in the way that it's laid out. There's a neighborhood to the north of 2600 North that has power lines that are running through it. That's a good example of one that they specifically made the lot the way that they did because of where the power lines are. But Ryan will be able to expound so much better than I have on
Good
that.
explanation, council member Talpaz. Ryan, go ahead.
No, thank you. That that was really good. Yeah, I guess to go with that, a lot of when a subdivision comes through the city, you know, there's some type of geological study done, right? And those kind of guide the R lots or restricted lots in that subdivision. It's usually by some type of a geological hazard or issue. In some cases, it is utility easements, if that's a power line or sewer, or even just the soil type that that subdivision is going in will decide if a lot is an R lot or not. So that was a good example with the power lines. There's another subdivision on the south end of town where they had a lot of wetlands on their lot, so they were a restricted lot. So the zoning text amendment would allow any R lots in the city to have a reduced setback from the common 30-foot to 20 feet. We currently have the code in our land use code for any lots that have a 10% or greater slope. It kind of came about with, as we get more development up on our mountainside, one of the subdivisions, their lots were, as the buildings were going in, they were dealing with trying to fit a home within those setbacks with these slopes. And that's kind of where the code came from. Staff did kind of start this process of considering reduced front setbacks for other lots. Expanding it to all our lots would benefit these lots that have easements where they're trying to meet, certain criteria. So in this specific case, there's a power line and they have to maintain so many feet from that power line. And to move their home, have that reduced setback would allow them to fit the home on the lot and maintain that 20 feet. The reduction from a 30 to 20 really, often goes unnoticed, right? And then because staff started this, it did come to our attention. There are these other there's these building permits coming in that this was an interest to them. If you looked at the planning commission, staff does recommend considering some type of code to allow this. Planning commission didn't like the having it general for all our lots. There was an example of there's some our lots that maybe have that distinction because of water pressure. They're just at the top of that zone. So that was added to the lot because they might need some type of pump if they did a 2-story home. So really we recommend just a discussion from city council on if they're fine with it being general or if there's more specific language we should look at to add to this code.
Okay, council, what questions do you have for Ryan regarding his discussion? Councilmember Watson.
Ryan, how frequently would you say this happens? These R lots, how many R lots would you say percentage wise across the city? It's very minimal, right?
I'm not certain actually. We have quite a few subdivisions that'll have them. And I think, especially where we're having more coming up, more development on the hill, we're seeing these geological issues, right? With soil, with the soil type, with the water that we have here in North Ogden. So I don't have a good number, but if John knows.
So I'd say it's probably 5 to 10% of the lots. However, this ordinance that's being tweaked is the ordinance that currently grants it for lots greater than 10%. And that I think is probably closer to half of our lots are over that 10% slope of being developed. So down on the flat area, obviously not, but up on the hill, pretty much every lot up there qualifies for the reduced setback. It is important to note that in the restructuring of our code, our land use code to the current numbering system under Title 11, the title has always been setbacks on lots 10% or greater, but the language in there, it got changed to 15%. And so no matter what, we need to clean that item up. But staff is recommending the approval of this because the number of lots for things that aren't geologic or aren't easement related or aren't environmental concerns as far as like slopes and retaining even some habitat like in the Rice Creek area, that's less than 1% of our lots or something that isn't related to the grading on the ground of the lot.
So again, we're not, because there's obviously subdivisions that have the R designation in that subdivision. We're just simply talking about the incline.
Well, so the language currently would grant it to any restricted lot. So it's not typically the whole subdivision, but it's the lots with typically in the lot, it'll say lot 3R or lot 5R. And that means that on that lot, there's something so specific that it needed to kind of give people a heads up like, hey, you may have to do something different here outside of the normal standard development.
Okay.
As I was trying to understand this myself, for instance, I found out I could have just set my home back 20 feet instead of 30 because the slope, I had to build that 14-foot wall. That might have been nice because, if you have kids, you like them playing in the backyard. So basically it would have extended my backyard another 10 feet. So, I'm not sure that I kind of agree with the planning commission. I'm not sure we want to have 20-foot setbacks on all of our lots. but with the R lot, it might make sense. Councilmember Barker, did you have a comment?
Didn't the planning commission say they don't accept it?
Correct.
Yeah, they're not recommending
They're
this. They
not
want us to
recommending
do a
it.
variance.
They didn't want to make it general.
They don't want to do it. They didn't want to
Yeah.
do a sweeping change, as I remember it.
Which, but I'm not so sure that I agree with restricting or putting it on all R lots, because I'm trying to, there's a bunch of R lots on the flatlands that are because you can't have a basement because of the groundwater. So if you're putting it that you can move your house 20 feet or 10 feet closer because you can't have a basement, it doesn't meet the intent of what I think we're trying. Is there a way to or write it so that it's R lots with a 10% slope, or I don't know.
Or a safety issue, maybe? I think in this particular case, the generation of the thought was from someone who has a power line running through their lot,
Well, yeah, and you can't build.
which would be a
underneath it.
safety issue,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
So, yeah, that probably makes some sense to have some restrictions. I think that's actually one of the things the planning commission brought up, wasn't it? That they'd like to see some more definitive language. John, is that correct?
Yes.
Councilmember Pulver.
Yeah, I agree. I think the biggest thing is you're making it too generic and you're making it for, like Councilman Barker's saying, that anybody could do it. And I don't think that's the intent. And I think either we change the title, obviously, because we got to make it 15%, or we just, leave it as is and fix it on the next go round. But I'm not recommending that we would change it wholeheartedly to meet the
Would you
need.
be in favor of slope and safety?
Would that account for the utility lines? Is that safety? Okay.
So
Of course, John's the attorney, so he can tell us.
Well, so the language I just put in here says, and it's something I've been thinking about and kind of had it ready in case the conversation came up. So it now reads in this red area here, or with a restricted designation related to slope, geological, conservation, and overhead and underground easements, which limit I need to put a comma there, which limit the location of foundations and structures. The idea being that now it's tied to those physical components, and it's not just something like the planning commission brought up a water pressure issue on some R lots and then the basements that were just mentioned, because that's a water table issue, although water table might be geological. So there's not a perfect way to write this ordinance. That's the answer. You could just limit it to overhead and underground easements, and that would at least solve the current issue.
But I think I heard you say, John, that, or someone, that most of the issues are going to be slope as we build up the hill.
Yeah, and that's why it was actually originally set at just this 10% or greater slope, because that instead of it just kind of solved the majority of the issues.
Councilmember Dalpez, I think you had a question.
Yes, I do remember listening to the planning commission on this. It's been long enough ago that, man, I wish I would have watched it like last night so I could have it fresh in my mind. But I do remember that they were all adamantly opposed to making any changes. And I don't think that they had this language in front of them that John has proposed. But I'm just kind of nervous about making any big changes. And, it could even, unless there's some reason we have to rush this, which I don't think we do, it might even be a good idea to have just a joint work session with the planning commission. We could go over it and talk about it in depth. Just a thought.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councilmember Barker.
So in the previous ordinance that was up there, where it just said lots greater than 10% slope, does the R lot trump the 10% slope requirement?
The more specific would control. Yeah, so the R lot, it wouldn't need to be sloped for it to
Well,
qualify.
for the house that wants to get built, don't they have a 10% slope on their property, right? I thought I read that somewhere. Maybe I misunderstood.
I think it was the
Or it's
power
just the
line.
power
Maybe
line.
in another case, in the other,
And I was thinking of something different.
yeah, must be another case. In this one, theirs is a pretty flat slope. It's
Okay.
just that the power line easement.
If it helps anyone visualize one of the neighborhoods where the R lots exist, there's the, I think it's White Rock subdivision, which is future Mountain Road that's right off of 3100 North. Most of those homes that are on the south side of the road are smaller setbacks. So if you're looking for a visual, and if you've driven by there any time recently, that's a good example of a place where the Rs have been implemented.
To me, to me, it should be restricted because, 20 feet, it's different. And, I mean, you can, there, all along 28 or 38, 25, I think, north, all of those houses got exemptions for shorter, closer to the curb. Because I wondered myself, I'm like, how the heck did they get away with, a driveway that barely fit one car before it impacted the sidewalk? So that was the case. And I don't want to see that throughout the city either. And at the same time, I want to, obviously, if there's a significant issue, you want to deal with that. But at the same time, I just don't want to make a blanket. So it's either we say no or not tonight. So.
I think that's a good point, Councilmember Pulver, as I was speaking with John earlier about this. Because, for instance, trucks are longer than 20 feet if it's a crew cab and a long bed, right? And we don't want them out on the sidewalk. But John indicated this is 20 feet, 1 foot back from the sidewalk plus 20 feet, so it's really 21 feet.
Correct.
So,
Still.
but yeah, that's kind of a problem. We don't want people parking on the sidewalks. But yet we don't want people to be unsafe with the power line running across there. So council, what do you want to do? On the agenda tonight, it's asking us to amend this ordinance. So we would either need a motion to postpone this, as suggested by Councilmember Dowpaz, or to adopt the ordinance as recommended, or as John has put on the screen. We just need a motion on what you'd like to do.
Can I just ask everyone, did anyone think the idea to get with the planning commission specifically on this one was a good idea? Or it's okay if it wasn't a good idea in your opinions? I do remember in the past, like, 4, 5, 6 years ago, it was much more common for the planning commission and city council to actually meet together and hash things out sometimes. So I kind of like the idea of going back to that from time to time. I've heard from the planning commission, some planning commission members in the past that sometimes they feel like we missed a lot of their intent and their discussions. So just throwing it out there. If you're not on board, that's fine.
I think that'd be great, especially if we're in a different setting. This room might be hard.
Okay, so do we have a motion? What you'd like to do?
Mayor, I move that we postpone a decision on this ordinance and make time in the immediate future for a planning commission, city council discussion on this issue.
Okay, we have a motion on the table by Councilmember Severing. Do we have a second to that motion?
Second?
Second by Councilmember Dowpaz. Are there any further discussion or questions before I seek a vote? Councilmember Pulver?
To have a meeting on just this one thing seems a little bit, I don't know. It make a decision tonight to me would be yay or nay. I don't know. I understand what we're talking about, but to delay the vote we can always bring it back, but I don't know.
Okay,
Kicking the can, I'm ready to, anyway, finish this motion first.
okay, we do have a motion on the table. If anyone would like to withdraw their motion or amend it, if not, then I would take a vote on the motion. The motion is to postpone this and have a meeting with the Planning Commission to gain further insight. Any other comments? Once again, the motion is to postpone. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
I
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes on a 4-1 vote. Thank you, council. We'll now go on to item number 7. And this will be led by our city manager, Attorney John Call. And this is a discussion or action to approve the redevelopment agency grant percentage to be awarded. I think John sent out, based upon a request from Councilmember Watson, a Excel spreadsheet for you to review. So John, why don't you lead this discussion?
Thank you, Mayor. So council, I did send out that spreadsheet and I'll pull it up here in a little bit. I'll probably scrunch it down for purposes of our costume, or our discussion costume, so that it's easy, or it's maybe helpful to follow along. As I mentioned in my earlier email today, I did do it a little backwards in that the percent on the sheet was the maximum contribution by the city, not the minimum by the applicant. So that will help us. But I do think that, as we talked about before, the two things that probably would be helpful to decide is there a maximum percentage by the RDA, and is there a maximum dollar value? So a good example is, I think the lowest request we had was $7,000. And the highest request we had was $2.5 million, which is more than double the amount of money that's available. And so what we would suggest is that at least, if you're looking at more than one application, you probably ought to be putting a cap on how much the RDA will give, whether that's, it could be 500,000, but it's just, it could be $1 million. It's totally up to the group, but just to set a limit and then to again talk about what's the max percentage the RDA would put in. Although you do have the option of funding some projects at 100% and some projects at 0, just like you have the option of funding all of them at 0, right? You don't have to give the money away. Staff is recommending picking a percentage and using that as the basis for the discussion. And then the one I put in the spreadsheet is a max contribution money wise of 200,000. That would max out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the projects would be maxed out by the 2,000, meaning they would be asking for more. But in most of those cases, the percentage is the greater limiter. If you're under 50%, that becomes a bigger limiter than the max dollar amount does. So that's probably where I would start with. And then I think that it'd be helpful to then talk about the individual 13 or 12 applicants and talk about the strengths of each. If we want to prioritize them, we can, but we can just go down the list and decide what the council's thinking. And then the next phase of this is there'll need to be a budget amendment that comes back to the RDA board and the council to officially grant the funds and start the process.
John, isn't there another component of that we really need to identify what may be available for grants? I know there's been some questions asked about some other potential uses of the money, so might be worth throwing that component in also. So with that, what questions do you have for John?
Quick question. Are we supposed to be an RDA board right now, or are we okay being a council?
We're okay being a council because the decision won't be made until the budget hearing is made. And so we felt like there was an issue with the formality of jumping back and forth.
Okay, what questions do you have for me?
John, so the North Shore can be included on this, right?
So North Shore is currently getting $1.45 million. But that doesn't mean that is one of the uses of RDA money we've used for several years. So if the council would like to give more money to the North Shore Aquatic Center, they can.
John, just to clarify that, I think the amount you just mentioned is identified for specific renovation.
Correct.
I think the question that has been asked of me is, what about future renovations of unknown? And what about building the fund in the event, it doesn't break even. So we don't have to start generating property tax increases to pay for operations. So I just want to clarify that $1,450,000 is for identified
Correct. Yeah, and at that.
almost repairs.
And what we mean by that is the staff has identified the list of the areas that we're focusing on, and our plan is to present those to council in December, saying, here's the budget, here's the items we're gonna work on to get final approval, because we did promise we'd bring that back to the council for a final review before we started buying new boilers and things like that. So. And I think you're right, Mayor, that if we did inject money into the fund to increase the balance, we'd probably want to make it very strategic and clear on exactly what it's being set there for and how it's to be used so that there's no confusion in the future.
So just to clarify for the council, when you look at that operating statement for the aquatic center, there is no depreciation in there. So if we were depreciating the assets to have money for future replacement, we'd be substantially probably negative.
True.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That was a different star.
I switch back and forth. Okay, Councilmember Pulver.
And I did ask the question about, because there was a line item in the current RDA about Bicentennial Park project, and it was 210. Whether that was different or the same or different part of what was proposed in the more recent Bicentennial and 33 or 300 East project.
And those are the same. So instead of 210, the current cost, which includes now the xeriscaping on 300 East, is 266,500. So it's not a total of 470. It's the total of 266. There is in the budget 300,000 for the connection from where Cafe Rio is out to 300 East to help the developer do that, in large part because they may lose stalls and or a pad because of it. But they also recognize it's helpful for the whole development. So there's a little bit of some trading that hasn't been formalized yet because the council hasn't been, that's part of the discussion, but it is on the other budget that's not part of this 1.25 that we're talking about. Yes.
I think just some clarification on that. The reason that that money was set aside is UDOT has told us once the development takes place across the street, they're going to put a cement barrier from 300 East up to Washington Boulevard, which will cut off ingress and egress to that plaza for anybody that's heading east. Also, when the turn lane is put in, that could theoretically back up and block that entrance off of 450. So that's a viable contributor of sales tax money. So it's anticipated that the main entrance into that plaza, into McDonald's, into Cafe, into Hug Hess, et cetera, will come off of 300 East to keep that a viable spot. Just wanted to make sure everybody was clear on that, why that money was set aside. That plaza is a big generator of sales tax. Councilmember Severing.
There's also an option to be able to use some of this money for the 2700 North development, right, John?
So yes, in the sense that the old RDA, which was done under the 1990 rule, is very flexible. And as long as the projects can be tied to an economic benefit to the area, the money expended doesn't have to be on ground in the RDA area, if that makes sense. So yes, and I'm trying to be very specific so it doesn't add much confusion. But in theory, the RDA could invest in commercial properties outside of the RDA area, thinking that will generate excitement and growth in the RDA.
Thank you.
So if a Ruth Chris was coming to town, it's not, by the way, but that's the kind of stuff that you could incentivize that sort of thing, for example.
Okay, Councilmember Delpez.
Mayor, do you have an estimate, or have you looked at the numbers on if we were to set aside a certain amount of RDA money to help sustain the aquatic center for however many years? Do you have a rough estimate of how much you think we would need, or do we need to dive into that further?
I would say when you're talking about renovations and things coming along, I'd say a minimum $250,000. But no more than 500, because I think the renovations and the difference being if it operates at a negative situation and there are no RDA funds left in there, it comes out of the general fund, right? By the way, if you call me Mayor Snoop, double O dog, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah.
But no, your point being, that it's probably prudent, I guess I would say, to have some fund balance in there that could protect against losses and renovations needed, so it doesn't come out of general fund, which is primarily supported by property tax.
Have we seen initial numbers from this summer on revenues?
We have seen some projections. We don't have the final numbers, but it looks like without any depreciation, about a $20,000 negative. So it's ranged from, I think this is about as close as we've been.
We had 1 year where we made $7,000.
That was the COVID year, right? I think, or close to.
But we've had years where we've lost 130
Yeah,
plus.
So,
yeah.
so $20,000 in the negative this year, even with increasing our
Right.
fees to get in.
Correct. With no depreciation. Correct.
Okay, thank you.
That's the initial projection.
Yeah.
What other questions do you have?
Well, and this
Councilmember
1 point,
Severing?
oh, sorry, Mayor, that 1.4 million that we've got built into the budget for the, North Shore, that's just for repairs, right?
That's just for identified needed repairs, replacement like boilers, liner, those type of things. Yes, that's correct.
So in the future, we could have some, if there's not money set aside, there could be serious amounts of money coming out of the general fund for the aquatic center.
I see John kind of giving a half nod.
So we'll present much more details in December, but essentially what we're suggesting is the majority of the moving mechanical equipment, so not piping, but majority of the stuff in the pump house will all be new. The parking lot will be completely redone, not a mill and fill, not a completely, but it's fixed. All the flooring in the main pool building will be fixed where the lifeguards are. And then the pool liner, the playground, and the slide was already done. It was already refinished. But basically, everything will just about be new except for the concrete and the physical structures and roofs, which are still inside of their useful life. Most commercial buildings are good for 50 years, and we're at about 20 on those. The roof will probably go just because roofs fail after.
It's a metal roof.
Oh, it's a metal roof
Good for life.
on both? On
Think
all
so.
of them? Anyway, okay.
At least
So
when I see out my window every day.
the roofer says we're good on roofs. So more than likely, the things that the most likely costly expense would be the concrete, but we replace panels and fix panels every year as part of our normal budget, just to make sure that because those can be tripping hazards and things. So it's not going to be brand new, but most anything that can go wrong, we're hoping we've caught and replaced early or replaced because it needs it. The pool liner, for example, needs to be done now. But because of timing, we're going to have to wait till next fall because it takes more than 6 months to get a new pool liner, apparently.
Councilmember Watson.
I think that it's also something I just want to point out is that if we propose that we will support one of these applicants with their grant and they can't come up with their allocated portion, or they don't want to accept that grant, that we have the option to then use a backup. We could have a backup plan for that money, assuming there will be some that reject this agreement. And so my question earlier to John was that there's not any kind of timeline stipulation regulations for us for the RDA on that backup plan, as long as we allocate by the end of the year for the first plan. So I'm just suggesting that the aquatic center could be one of our backup plans. And not to say that it can't be a first plan too, but that's an option.
Councilmember Barker?
My opinion is we set aside at least 3 to 500,000, because it's easier to say than 250
Okay.
for the
whatever.
aquatic center. And then I'd recommend we put a cap, 50-50 split with about not one project getting more than 1/4 of whatever's left, if that makes sense. Just to try to move some discussion along so that one project can't eat up all the money.
So to recap what you just said, you're requesting a 50% match.
Correct?
So if somebody wanted a project for 200,000, they'd have to come up with 100.
Correct.
But it wouldn't be more, any one project couldn't eat more than 25% of the remaining balance. Say that's $1 million, just for example. The most anyone could get was 250.
Correct.
Does that make sense? Anything about the new development in regards to attracting high generating sales tax?
I think it's
Tenants?
a great idea.
Just
I don't
asking.
know that, I don't have a number, but yes, I think it's a great idea. I also think I'm looking at this list and there's projects on there that are over $2 million. And so even to do a 50% split, they're only gonna get about $250,000 from us. And is that worth it to them to keep doing their project? So I think it's a good starting, in my opinion, it's a good starting point to reach out to these businesses and see if they still want to be involved.
Okay, thank you.
2 million one house.
Councilmember Pulver, did you have another comment you wanted to make?
Well, I was just going to suggest that we, for the development along 2600, that it would be 300. I was trying to give him the high sign, but he didn't take it. That's fine. And I don't know if I'd go as high as 500 for the pool. I think Councilperson Watson's suggestion was awesome, is to have at least a number for the pool. And then if that would be the fallback position if anybody not rejects, but can't use the money, that it would go to the pool.
Okay.
So, but I tend to agree that 50% should be the cap. I didn't come up with anything that was bigger than 50% for any one business. And again, I don't think, I only had 6 businesses here that I kind of said that we would give some money to. So I don't know if that's another starting point too, is that I think some just don't meet the criteria, especially for some of our goals that we came up on Friday, is this, and I don't think I can say what my wife said on camera, but she'd rather see new places than polishing, and I'll leave out the word, but I think that the point is that for her, some of the most visual spots, and I think I agree, the Bicentennial Park, North Ogden Plaza, and even some of the places that will be visible once 300 becomes a viable street, is everything on the other side of Lee's. So I thought that was kind of an eye-opening thing for me. And then, some of the things along Washington, do they need some help presenting themselves to the people passing by? That's what was it, 20,000-40,000 cars that go on Washington driving by every day. I just thought some of their ideas were really good.
So maybe with that being the case, maybe if you set aside money for incentivizing high-paying sales tax entities, it wouldn't just be on 2,700, it'd be city. Because I don't know if that would qualify, John, for instance, if somebody needed some help coming in along Washington Boulevard there between 1,700 and 1,900, if that would qualify, or if it's too far out of the area.
Well, the redevelopment area zigzags down Washington, so it might actually fall under it.
Okay.
But yeah, we could.
Okay. So if I could summarize here, just the discussions, is that there is a proposal or a discussion to require 50% of of 50% match. If somebody wanted, it was a $200,000 project they were requesting, they'd have to put in 100. So we've got that. There's a desire to set aside some money to help development in the city. Someone was talking 300,000 to 500,000, if I heard that correctly. And then the backup plan would be if these projects, the money's not used, that the backup plan would be to buoy up the fund balance in the aquatic center. Is that a summary of the discussion?
I think the 3 to 5 was for the aquatic center, but I think 3 for both the aquatic center and the development each. So that would be 6 total. But I think if anything came off of that list, because if you take 300 and 300, you've already halved what so you're only left with 642-ish. I don't know, something like that. So I don't know. That seems high, as I'm saying it out loud, but at the same time, we're doing polishing versus trying to get new stuff in or helping preserve something that we've put a ton of money into, i.e. the aquatic center. So I don't know. I'm talking too much. Okay, somebody else talk.
Councilmember Watson.
I would probably have voted more around 200,000 for the potential new sales tax properties, and then also 200,000 for the aquatic center to start, but then also have that be the backup. So in my opinion, that would give us a lot more to work with. But I don't know if all of you felt this way, but I kind of had grouped all of the applicants into 3 groups. Some got no money, some got 25%, and some got a 50% from the city. So they don't all seem equal to me, is what I'm saying.
Okay, thank you. Just pointing out, and John, you can respond to that. If we were to do that on a tiered basis, like Councilmember Watson is suggesting, we probably ought to have some pretty clear criteria, because otherwise, what was the decision based upon, and would we get pushed back? Well, you just liked, so-and-so better than, et cetera. So it'd probably be good to have some criteria to judge that on. I think Councilmember Pulver, you also indicated there was probably only 5 or 6 you'd be willing to consider there. But we ought to make sure that we have the criteria on which that is. And I think John, I wasn't here at the meeting, I was trying to join in from the airport, but I think he kind of explained there were 7 objectives of RDA money. John, was that? Or might have been more. It was hard to hear, but.
There was 20 total, but yeah, there's 7 that were really related to what we're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'd have to align it with that. So where do you want to go from here, Councilmember Dalpas?
Yeah, not just to belabor it, but I'm just thinking about potential money set aside that helps bring in a business, and I'm trying to just wrap my brain around that. Do we have any? Have we heard of any other cities? Have we heard of any other situations where, say Riverdale City, they put, $100,000 towards such and such, and it got something? Do we have any, John, have you ever heard of anything that would help us give an estimate? Or, because it seems really difficult to put a number to it, but I do agree that we should put a number towards trying to lure a new business for, say, 2,700 in Washington or something like that.
So we have a fairly good example with Ace Hardware and Smith's Marketplace, in the sense that, there was some RDA or CDA money injected into both of those projects. And we could look at our sales tax numbers, not we as a group, because the people who are allowed to see that have to sign a document. And there's only 1 in the city at this point. 2. Oh, there's 2 people. And that's because it's related to their jobs, because it can be pretty.
Who is that, John?
Jamie and Colleen.
Mm-hmm.
So we have some examples. Other cities have it too. Weber County and Ogden especially has quite a bit as they've been doing their stuff. It is so end user specific, meaning that a good example is, oh, we're not going to get a Walmart or a Target in the city most likely, but those two per square foot perform differently, right? Just like a Costco and a Sam's Club they just perform a little differently, even though they're kind of in the same industry because they just have a % market share. And so some of it would be end user, although we could pick types of users and you'd get a good category on it, kind of a bang for your buck that we could do.
I think we assisted the Nielsen's Custard, didn't we, John?
We did. Yep.
To make that project work. Just a thought, because I think we do want to help develop our existing businesses at the same time we're bringing in. But if we have 1.2 million and we took 300 for enticing development in our commercial areas and 300 for the aquatic center fund balance, that would split that basically half and half between existing businesses, so to speak, and enticing new. Just a thought. John, did you have a
I
comment?
took what the mayor just said and put them.
Please refer to me properly.
Oh,
Mayor Snoop, double O dog.
Mayor Snoop, double O dog.
Yeah, okay.
It's double G, not double O.
And double G.
Bill started.
Okay, go ahead, John.
So I've built that into the sheet here and kind of said, so this is the 300 plus 300 is 600. And that leaves us with 654,000 to spend. That is everyone hitting that marker of either the 50% match or the 225 max. But I haven't gone through this column and zeroed anybody out who would maybe be a project that the council isn't interested in funding.
Let's do that.
Councilmember Severing, go ahead.
Well, John, one of my big concerns, and we've talked about like a 50-50 match, this idea of a 50% match. So have any of these individuals indicated that they can actually contribute to this?
Yes.
And if so, what are we looking at?
So Scott is listening online. I've tried to not force him to talk because of the injury to his cheekbone. But he could potentially text in, or I'm going to make him a panelist just so if he wants to talk, he can. But he has talked to all of them and gotten different responses on if the city's not paying for all of it, then they're not interested in any of it. But there are a good majority of them who are interested in whatever money the city's willing to offer. So there are some that will participate no matter what, I think, but the timing might be off, if that makes sense. So, and there is at least one project. I didn't speak to them, but the impression was if it's not paid 100%, that they wouldn't even put a penny into the project. But that was more of a nuanced one, and so I hate to identify which one it is because that mood might have shifted since, in the past 2 months.
I guess we find that out when we set the parameters if it's 50%, right? Councilmember Barker?
So is it difficult before our meeting in December to reach back out to all these businesses and let them know that we will only do a 50% match? But now our limit is going to be 150,000, since that's 25% of the 600 that's left, or I guess it's 625. So maybe it'd be 154,000 ish.
I don't think we all agreed on that.
We don't. Well,
Okay.
no, and not that I'm curious if we could.
So I would anticipate that at the December meeting, when the budget's approved, that we would have firm commitments. It wouldn't be in writing, but firm commitments for, yes, I'm going to move forward, or no, I'm not.
Okay.
What other comments do you have, council, or questions for John? Councilmember Severing?
Well, I was just going to say, and I've expressed this before, and whether the council agrees or not, it's obviously everybody's opinion, but I still am kind of concerned that if we do make some contributions, that we have some kind of a stipulation that the owners not sell the property for a couple of years or so, just because of a commitment to, you know, if we assist somebody with a couple $100,000, in my opinion, that's kind of enriching the building. I know that it could still be used, but to me, I just feel like there should be some kind of a parameter for the owner to not be able to sell for a couple of years or something like that, but that's just me.
Well, and it is hard because there's a lot of conflicting process in this, in the sense that the original RDA was developed to bring in new owners and new development, not necessarily revitalize the existing, although revitalizing existing is always part of the process. And the other thing that's always part of the conversation too is technically this is their property tax going back to them. And so I think your point is 100% valid. I'm just offering all the kind of conversation in that there's this weird tension of, I'm going to pick the Olive Flutter, for example, right? It is not in business. And would that, if it's at 50%, that $18,000 be enough to get someone in and get them to start working on it? Because that $18,000 is probably close to what they would pay in property tax over 4 years, maybe less. And so it's this weird conversation about what are we growing or what's the goal? And that's for you to make the decision on. So, and I'm not saying Olive Flutter should be on your list or not. I'm just saying that it's to the mayor's point earlier about tying it back to those RDA stuff. It's not black and white addition. There's a lot of backyard medicine going into this.
Well, then should we?
Councilmember-
Oh, sorry.
I think Councilmember Del Paz had a.
I think two things we probably could narrow down quickly is we could say one of the parameters is you have to be an entity, you have to be a business to request. I know that we didn't probably have the best rules and regulations to what would allow somebody to put in a grant proposal. But a good example is that individual citizen that's listed as number 9. He's requested money to be able to put in a sidewalk in an area that's just, I mean, it's close-ish to commercial, but it doesn't have any real material impact on anything. So we could put that as one of the stipulations, is that you have to be a business entity name. And then the other stipulation is that you have to have a business, operating business, a current operating business. Now, I understand that in Olive Flutter's situation, if they came back to us and said, hey, we've got somebody that wants to work with us to improve the property, and they come up with a totally different proposal based off of a new business coming in, that would be different. So I think those two would strike out at least a couple of these off of the list, while keeping it, in my mind, fair, because they seem pretty straightforward requirements.
I agree with that.
And I propose that we take Mr. Casperson's and just do that later. I mean, to me, that's the big, I don't know, 100-pound elephant or billion-pound elephant in the room. And to be honest, I think I'd rather put it into businesses than just sidewalks, but thoughts?
The sidewalks kind of take care of themselves when new developments come in and they have to get a site approval, and part of that is they have to do the 6-foot sidewalk. So yeah, I'm good with that.
Is there any, I mean, Eric Casperson's not here, but is there any particular part of the sidewalk that is kind of an urgent need or an eyesore that needs to be addressed? Or would this project be all or nothing? Could we do just one fix if we needed?
So Eric's name is on it. I'm the one that suggested we put it in. And it's not because it's like, this has to happen. It's more of a, the one spot where we said, hey, we want a 10-foot sidewalk. They came in and asked the council for a waiver because it was only in front of their dentist office. And so we were like, well, maybe it makes more sense to do the whole thing at one time and just eliminate the issue and the burden on the residents or the businesses there. So it was kind of one of those, hey, if there's going to be money left over, then staff thinks, hey, let's spend it on this. And if there's not money left over, then we'll just figure out some other way in the
But
future.
at the same time, that was to have a walkable city, and I don't know at this point on Washington if you have a ton of people walking up and down anyway, but
Correct. Yeah, there's, yeah, and that's the hard thing is that one, you won't be able to measure the financial benefit. You'll just have to kind of guess, hey, look, there's people on bikes or walking because it's a 10-foot sidewalk instead of a 5-foot sidewalk. So
What
So-
other comments?
I've been eliminating these that it seems like the group is kind of on the same page on. So
I would say too, just, I know I'm playing Snoop on this one, but I don't think it ought to be reimbursement. I think it ought to be for things that are done going forward.
pool works should come off.
I don't agree with that one, but that's just one person's opinion. Because they've already shown the investment and they came in at the right time to put in a proposal. But that's just one person's opinion.
Okay.
I-
What about the match portion, folks? I think that needs to be decided too, because that'll,
Max?
I'm
Total
saying, I
or-
think you're better to go across the board, then you don't get yourselves in. pick and
Well,
choose.
because certain, well, the problem is that there's certain parts of certain, what was it? I can't remember which one, but it's both Lock It Up and Cannery had just so much. And I'm like, to me, it was like, I want to focus. And so that's why I kind of came up with a different percentage, because there's no way that I'm going to propose 50% for the cannery. Was it 50? Which one was it? Yeah. And say, give them a crap ton of money when it really was, I don't really care about the new warehouse. I care about what's on Washington and a good path in between, stuff like that. And so that's why when you say 50%, I don't think that would apply.
So you're
Unless
saying
you're-
they should-
unless you
they
wanna
shouldn't
target-
Come up with half the money?
No, what I'm saying is that I want to target certain projects, and therefore, when you say it's 50% from what they proposed, I want to say it's 50% maybe for certain project. I don't know.
It seems like the only one that's really a problem with that is the cannery one, because they had such a wide
Lock It
punch
Up.
list of items that they
Yeah,
wanted to
Lock It
do.
Up too had.
Was,
pretty-
yeah,
yeah.
Lock It Up had a pretty.
So
big
I had
list of
less
things.
than.
But those are the only ones that stick out to me that had a big laundry list of items that they had.
Well, and then Jones Shirt and Sign, they kind of dovetailed into what Dave Mentz said. Yeah. And so again, I didn't give them, I gave them like 20%. And it's just something like that. So dovetails, if there's something dovetails, I don't want to give them 50%. That makes sense.
No, maybe I haven't been clear. I'm not talking about giving them 50% of the money.
Yeah.
Because you've set a cap on the maximum.
Right.
Which would be 25% of whatever's left in the pool. The 50% I'm talking about is they've got to come up, if the city says, we're going to give you 200, they got to come up with 200 for the project.
Okay.
That, so just
or
to
more.
clarify.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
But not just limiting, that they get 50% of the money. So I must not have been clear on that. So, Councilmember Watson?
So I guess I felt like the reason that we did all the ranking was because some properties will tend to be more impactful than others. And so I guess in my mind, from the beginning, it wasn't that we would give an equal percentage across the board, that some would be more attractive to the city than others. So I am kind of along the same lines as Councilmember Pulver. Just putting a new roof on something versus providing a new opportunity for new sales tax dollars to be coming in. It's hard to compare to me because for example, the Lock It Up, I really like that project because they're willing to not only improve their property, but also use city easement and improve the city's land. So they're improving something for us. So that's that one shines to me. So I guess that's a question that I think is important to address, is whether or not we're going to give the same amount of percentage across the board or not.
And I understand that. I guess I would say in that case, that's not going to generate very little sales tax. And I know that's not the only issue, But that, they don't charge sales tax on rental units, I don't believe. So I don't have a problem with weighting things, but yeah, they are going to increase the trail down there, which is really nice. But then how do you weight that against somebody like, say, a Big O Tires or whatever, if that was going to it just becomes so complicated, but we can surely do that. It just, it's so complex on how you assign weightings to each factor. I mean, either way's fine.
I mean, if we have enough money to do 50% with a few favorites, that's fine. I had put, like I said, I had put only a couple as 50% and then several others at 25%. But if we have enough, then great,
We don't.
So I can,
Maybe we need.
so I can build a column where you could come in and say 20, 30, 15, and my math isn't working.
Yeah, the
Times by.
varying of percentages, just I feel like it's going to be bad because someone is going to be hurt. Someone's going to say, well, what the heck? Why did you give 30% for so-and-so and I only got 10? And I feel like it's so complicated on these proposals that I don't think I could confidently tell someone, hey, the reason we gave you 30% instead of 10% is because of this. I could try my best, but I really think we need to stick to a firm percentage.
I think it comes down to money because somebody's 10% might be $400,000 and somebody's 50% might be $50, 50,
Yeah.
50 grand. So I tend to disagree on that just based on the number part of it. I think what you're looking at is the enhancement, visual, safety, economic, what is your impact to the overall area? So it doesn't look bad, And so, I mean, I go to the Bicentennial Park to me is every time I drive by it, I just shudder because it just looks like a dirt pile, and that, to something that that's not going to generate sales tax. But again,
Make it look nice.
it'll look nice. People see it, and that's part of the whole city center, and I think that's the same thing for some of the other things that we're talking about. And so, Big O's another thing. That's more that way, but do you give them all of it? No. So, I mean, anyway, we need to start racking these things. We'll be here till 9.
Well, so maybe what would be really helpful is we've got 10 more that we've kind of talked about, but maybe it'd be really easy to do kind of a head nod. Should they be in the conversation or should we zero them out like these other 3 at the top? And we ought to because we might find that there's 2 more in there that everyone's okay with zeroing out. And now we're down to 8 to talk about. Maybe that's not the case, but I mean, does anyone have others that they would zero out? I know that
Pizza pie, I would zero.
Go ahead, Councilmember Barker, you had your hand up.
One of the ones with the cannery, the new warehouse, that could actually be, if they don't get money off this, they could come and go for the 200 or 300,000 that we have for new development because it's a new building.
That's why I didn't, yeah.
So but they're on there twice. I don't know. I would zero out one of them, my opinion.
I think it's important to preserve that historical old building, just my opinion. But I'm fine to eliminate the new warehouse.
So under the existing building, it says sidewalk. Is that what he's asking for?
so it's sidewalk enhancement, parking lot, facade, landscaping, and a water tower feature. So in those type of applications where there's a lot, you could say, hey, we are willing to pay for the parking lot or the facade, but the other 3 things we're not going to put any money into. So you could award a percentage of those components if you wanted to. So it sounded like potentially new warehouse was out.
That's my opinion.
Good by me.
Councilmember Severing, did you have a question?
Well, I think I like what John is saying is I think there's going to be, if we just started at the top and worked from the top to the bottom and said, okay, what's everybody's thoughts about this particular project, that project? We might be able to eliminate some of them quickly and that changes the.
Are you following this? He's
No, I can't see
eliminating.
it.
Oh,
So he's already eliminated it?
So he's eliminated.
So
Mark Ellis,
I was
Washington
okay with
Boulevard,
no
Olive
on the
Flutter,
warehouse.
Cannery,
So
New
if that
House.
helps move this along, I guess it's already zero.
It's already zeroed.
Okay.
I, for one, thought that Pizza Pie Cafe's recommendation, Pizza Pie Cafe was a reasonable request.
At the last meeting, there was a couple people that thought no. that
I-
were
I still,
pretty
bel-
against, I think.
I'm pretty no still on that.
What's the majority vote?
Yep.
Is it a yes or a no majority?
It's easier to see an impact from a facade than from a roof, but I'm not a roofer. I don't know. Maybe people do recognize the new roof and want to go more.
Maybe one of our concerns still too is I'm still interested in who's going to be willing to contribute. If somebody's going to be willing to contribute, I'm more willing to say, let's give them something versus somebody who is going to say, no, I don't have any interest. That to me changes the whole dynamics of this list too.
I don't know if,
Sorry, I was just going to say, I think everybody needs to have
I was
skin in the
okay, I
game.
was okay with the PPC being 0. And I think we had half-ish of the city council last time on board with that. Well, we had 3 or 4 people here. There's a couple, 1 or 2 absent. So it seems like it's trending in the direction of a 0, but
Is that facade or is that a roof?
it was a roof.
You're
repair.
not getting a roof for $24,000.
Yeah, roof
especially
repair,
for
yeah,
them.
it doesn't make
It's-
sense.
No, I think it's more facade, but in that, we paid RDA money to, what's this plaza right behind us? Where Zang's and T-Mobile, and we did all of that new facade. And I think it was worth the money.
Yeah.
So to say, if that's what Pizza Pie wants to do with the money is to put a new facade.
If it's
it
facade,
helps.
not a roof.
Okay, since we've brought up my roofing days, you're not getting a new roof for $24,000 on that building.
So I think it sounds like there's still some discussion, so maybe it's better to, and
That
it
was
sounds funny.
facade. It makes sense because it sticks right out there in the,
Right.
So
Because
I mean,
we
it's
can
so
go out
visual.
and get the additional information that says we need,
Put a no on a roof and yet potential yes on facade.
Because it does say building revitalization
Well,
and.
it says roof
so-
repair, so they might just be patching or fixing, but it's not a whole new one.
yeah, if it's a roof, it doesn't make sense.
Well, I mean, honestly, if it's, it needs to follow the criteria, but at the same time, 12 grand or less.
it's not
Anyway,
much.
something to think about. I still say no, but moving on.
I don't know if we're going in order here, but I'd be willing to say, I agree with whoever said earlier that the reimbursement, I don't know, I guess I go back to Smith's and how they wouldn't have been able to move and upgrade if it weren't for that little help. And so if we're trying to give a boost to someone who needs it to be able to do this project, then I'd be willing to zero out the reimbursement.
for Pool
Pool
Works.
Works, yeah.
I'm seeing some head nods, but I didn't see your reaction, Councilmember Pulver.
Pool Works, I met them. They're awesome. The problem is that it's done and I think, and it looks awesome, reimbursement. If there's money, I don't know. I didn't have them on the list, to be perfectly honest. It wasn't one of the things that I think we need to focus on. It's in an area that's okay. I think there's other areas that need serious help versus.
Like that one, that building was just saved. Because anyone that remembers what the building looked like for 20 years, it hasn't looked good in over 20 years. And now it just looks so, that's kind of where, that's why I'm so fond of it.
Councilmember Severing, where are you?
On Pool Works? Is that what you meant? Is on Pool
Yeah.
Works? You know what?
'Cause I think we got 3 no's here, but just wondering where you were.
Well, he did what we wish other owners would do to their buildings, right? So he was willing to do what he did, not being familiar with the RDA access. So in my opinion, grateful what he did, probably not going to be voting to reimburse him.
All right, John, you take that one off.
And you also, council may find that as you might come back to some of these and say, hey, you know what, this blue number is now positive, so we want to put the money in a project we eliminated, or put it more into my little plug, the Bicentennial Park. So that since that's a city project, maybe more than 50% there.
That should be 56 anyway.
So, yeah, just trying to, so we're going down the list here. Where are we on Big O tires?
Yeah, because 210's already in there.
Raise your hand if you're in favor of Big O tires.
So I hate to like bring up a history, but for me, if Big O can improve their parking lot to help the whole ordinance fiasco that we had on that road,
Give it 100.
then I'm a yes. But if it's not going to help the whole situation where they got cars parking on the street in the winter, no.
So at this point in time, we have 4 yeses on that, but Councilmember Delpaz, we need to clarify that.
I have the similar concern. I would like to see them do better, but I was making some phone calls hoping that there could be some other solutions on the parking too. So I have a similar question there. I don't know if that could be written on the side as well.
Yeah, let's get that as a comment. I do think something, it would be nice to enhance business there because they've got a new competitor in the area. And that is a big sales tax generator, but good question. So we'll put that on the side. Bicentennial Park.
I'd make that 100%.
So Councilman Pulver pointed out a good point. We had it in at 210 that wasn't included in the 12.5 million or 1.2 million. So I've changed it now, so it's only the increase of 56,000 from what's already budgeted.
Okay,
But I would make that 100%.
Yeah.
And then I don't know how you explain that to people, but that's the most visible thing. I don't know.
okay, let's go down to the North Ogden Parks Department Bicentennial. Everybody in favor of that? That's what we
Yeah.
just did. The DML campus, which is Northern Ice.
And
I
this
think
is
we put a
the,
bunch of money into that already, didn't we? 60,000.
we
or
put,
70
yeah, 60
for the
or
wall.
into the wall on the north side of the area. They're talking about doing the grading, landscaping, curb gutter, sidewalk and parking lot. So
Is it an additional building, John?
they'll have to reapply, but they originally had 2 buildings planned there and had site approval for 2 buildings. There's no reason why the ordinance have changed. They couldn't build 2.
Who's in favor of the Northern Ice property? I got a 2.5, 3.5. Okay, leave that one on, it looks like.
And on this one, I think it'd be good to put some timelines into that new building. So we can ask them about that.
But the money is,
Okay.
yeah.
Sean, on the sidewalk. Cannery existing building. We were talking about preservation there.
If preservation is something that of that building is something the council feels is important, you could tie any money for this project to essentially a historic easement where the facade can only be changed to a certain, basically you'd be buying the right to the facade.
Is there a building on the historical registry? Do we know?
I believe it is.
It is in the
Okay.
public.
So we're leaving that on with some questions.
Yeah.
Jones Shirts. This is the one I think that the actual owner of the property said he's not interested in putting any money in.
No, she is, I thought.
He doesn't own the building.
Dave
She did
Meeks
the
owns the building.
proposal.
Right, but that's what I was saying, that it would dovetail into what Dave was talking about. That's what I was. Because Dave was talking about facade improvements.
So we can ask for clarification on that for sure.
Can
Yes,
Yeah, based off of what I understood, that one should be zeroed out but we can call Dave Meets and confirm. I think it's basically that he has a tenant that was putting in the proposal and was,
He didn't know
if
that.
all was great and they got a bunch of money to do it, they would have done it. But since there's going to be a required money amount, then I think it would be a no. But
thought
let's
that she
just,
had-
I'd say zeroed out and just confirm with Dave Meets.
I don't know if I'd
And
zero
the
it, but
Jones, right? Because Jones could put forth the money if they wanted to.
I thought she said she was.
I mean, it's, it's
Did
not
you
their
say she's
bu-
gonna put some money
it's
in,
not their
Chris?
building.
Thought so. I was trying to remember in the proposal what, because I know Dave had said in each one of his points that what his percentage was gonna be, if I can
He,
find
he
it.
had another one. He had the Plaza one, which is that bottom one. And then Jones was a separate one. They're kind of right
Correct.
in the,
Right, but it still had, where is it? Standalone, yeah, would not be, yeah, so
That's something that we could get Scott Hess to give us a thumbs up on if Janice was willing to pay.
I thought it was,
We already know Dave's not willing to pay. I don't know.
no, Dave's willing to pay.
On the facade
And I don't know-
for
I don't think
Jones?
She has the money to put in. so.
It's in there. It was
Oh.
talking about,
I feel very comfortable putting that one as a zero based off of what I had heard was talked about and calling Mr. Meets and confirming, hey, is this is what we heard accurate?
repair the
That you're
stucco
not
and.
willing to put money into a facade.
Right. If no one's
Re-
willing to
re-
pay, then we don't need to put it
It's
on
literally
here.
in, it's
But I'm
literally in the
just-
thing. It says repair the stucco and paint the east side run and strip mall to match the north side building in the standard Plobing building. So that's what Janice was talking about. So I don't know. I mean, it's in there. And his
Yeah.
proposal was request the grant cover 100% of that, but that was. what was
Yeah,
that?
I understand, but my understanding was that Janice had put in the work to put that little rendering together. And she was excited at the prospect if they would be able to get free money, that it could get done. And then I think it was in a sidebar conversation after the meeting. Someone was talking, I believe it was Scott Hess was talking to Dave, and Dave was like, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not planning on investing anything into that. So that's why I'm saying I feel very confident we can put it as a zero, talk to Dave and say, Dave, is this true?
Okay.
And the nice,
I think you're right.
the nice thing is of these projects that are on here, I mean, if almost any of them say no, then you're gonna just about be there. So like if we did zero this one out, then now you've got $50,000 more than you've got programmed. And I think it's likely that one of these 100 or 150,000 folks are gonna say, look, if you're not giving me all the money, I don't want any money, or I can't do it. And so, well, I'll put it as a zero for that conversation and then put a note that we need to ask for the buy-in. So,
Councilmember Barker?
For that one, I do agree that we should ask because we were talking about facades and we said yes to facades. So if they're willing to put money toward the facade, I think we should help them.
it
But-
sounded, oh, sorry. It sounded like Scott tried to speak, but I think he's on mute.
I've unmuted. Can you hear me, John?
Yep.
Well, perfect. Okay. So from my conversation with Dave Means, he worked with Janice, who put an application in as a business owner, but his primary project or priority was the one that he had submitted. So that was the parking lot, the landscaping improvements, potentially the sign itself that's out there that could use some renovations. And he indicated to me that he would be willing to put in maybe some minor exterior modifications that would be like paint and stucco fixes, but not to the extent that Janice's application had been put in. So if it came down to the business owners within each of those suites, if they wanted to pool their own resources and provide the match back, that project could potentially have legs. But from Dave Means, it sounded like he wasn't going to come up with 50% or any major portion of the match from what Janice had done in going out on her own and getting bids for exterior modifications to those buildings.
And Janice wasn't going to pay either, right?
I don't think Janice's expectation was that she would need to pay because the grant application as it went out, a grant letter said, didn't have anything in there about a required hard match from any individual applicant. It was just the applicant's ability to participate in the project, I think is the language that was used in the letter. And that's based off of the RDA project proposal, and John and I, in creating that letter, had used some priorities that came out of the original RDA creation. So if we go back and say now, after all this information has come out, this is the minimum matching amount, this is the maximum matching amount, and what, who needs to put money in, it's possible that Janice and those business owners, as well as Dave's project priorities, will change. That's very likely.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, Councilmember Watson.
I just wanted to check with John. So I'm fine if we don't stagger the percentages and go along with what the group wants there. But did you change anything for percentages, or are we at 50% for all of them?
Currently, everything is 50% match or 150,000 is the max.
So I don't remember that part. Did we talk about 150 or did we talk about 250?
That was based on the comment from Councilman Barker that 25% of what's left, and it worked out to roughly 150, although it's closer to 156.
Okay.
So
What other comments? So John, I believe the assignment here is the council's kind of whittled down the least top priorities. If there's money left over, they may reconsider. But that now we go back to the applicants, say, here's the deal. Are you willing to participate?
yes. Okay.
But let me just ask the council, and you guide me on this, John, if we need to take a vote on the 50% and 25% max as a recommendation to the RDA board. I'm assuming, where do we need to go from here, John, just to move this along?
So it doesn't hurt to have it's not super controlling tonight, but if you feel comfortable with the what's in front of your screen, that would help us in the communication saying, look, the council's voted. These are the projects. These are the amounts. Are you in or are you out?
Councilmember Barker.
Just from my impressions, I think it would be good. I think it's two separate issues, the 50% match. I think we're all in agreement on that, whether or not, but it's the max contribution. I think that's what we need the max contribution is what needs to be discussed. You all know my opinion.
Now the max contribution from the city?
Yes.
Okay. And
Total
what is your
dollar amount.
position, just to clarify?
My opinion is, or 25% of whatever the remaining dollar amount is.
Which is estimated to be
150,000.
150. So you're okay with the 25% and the 50%?
Correct.
Councilmember Severie.
I was just going to say, did we need to verify how much money we were looking at for the pool and for new development? Did we have to decide that?
I think we did the 300 and 300.
300,
didn't we?
300.
That's why it got down to 654.
Okay, well, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. I think so. Isn't that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
That's what I remember.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, John, what do you need from us?
So if you want to do a motion and said, hey, yes, staff move forward with this, then that will give us a little bit more teeth as we talk to the landowners.
Okay, so just to summarize, the council is making a recommendation to staff to pursue these applicants as outlined on the, what do you call it here? Your
Dynamic
your
spreadsheet.
dynamic spreadsheet with the provision of a 50% match requirement and maximum 25% to anyone. We think that's about 156,000, but we'll know that.
163, attorney math.
Yeah, but if it grows up, it's still 25%.
Correct.
Okay. Does that summarize it? Councilmember Watson.
Just had a question with the remaining, even if it's $1, I mean, I'm not saying what it is, but is that something we have to allocate as well before the end of the year?
Yes, we'd want it allocated at the budget
Okay.
hearing. Yeah.
So we could just say, let's put that towards the pool or put that towards the North Ogden Parks or the sidewalks or something like
Any
that.
unused money could go to the aquatic center.
Yeah,
as you
right.
Or
proposed.
the electronic sign.
Yes, for Chris.
That's all you need, 20 grand. You're done.
Look at,
Out the door.
You were making good progress.
It was all going great.
It was all going good
I didn't
until
pay
you
him
said
anything for that. That was zero,
Okay,
zero funded.
council, is there a motion to make that recommendation to staff?
Did we need to talk about Lock It Up and North Ogden Plaza? Because we didn't really, I know we're anxious to get this conversation done, but did we talk about Lock It Up specifically and North Ogden Plaza?
Yeah, I think we left those on, didn't we?
Well, yeah, but I don't remember like talking and saying yay or nay on either of them.
Yeah, I think on Lock It Up Storage, we talked about leaving that on there. Councilmember Watson, I thought addressed
Sorry, I
that.
just don't remember it. I'm good with that.
But North Ogden Plaza, we talked about checking with Dave
Mhm.
on his portion of the things he did to see if he was really still going to follow through on.
Yeah, and for me, North Ogden Plaza, just as a note, if you want to put it there, but that that park strip is wretched. So if a big part of it could be that park strip is improved.
That's,
That's in his one,
Please.
but he may come back and say, well, I'm only willing to put in X
Yeah.
park strip.
Yeah.
So, but that's what we'll find out.
Well, that's a good point, though. If we have priorities within their grant proposal that we want to see done, if it's not all the way done, then is that something we need to bring forth tonight?
So we will go to those who have got multiple issues and say, okay, let's use Dave as an example. Dave, you've got the parking lot and the landscaping / xeriscaping. Which one's the higher priority to you? And then we can even have them break the budget apart so that the council could say, look, if the cost is 50-50, we'll still give you $70,500, but the landscaping has to be done. That's what we want it spent on. And then he could decide on the parking lot.
I think the same thing would apply to the Lock It Up. Right, what we're really interested in is making sure the trail gets done.
The
Yeah.
cannery, preserving the cannery.
Right. So yeah, I think that's a good point. So John, just in your discussions with him, you or Scott, let them know, there are some priorities that would be attached to the respective match.
And then I think it would, because we're 4 weeks away, it might be worth talking with having the liaison for planning be involved in some of those conversations to make sure that they can come back and help the council understand the nuances there.
Okay, good. So who wants to make a motion, council? What's your motion? Councilmember Barker.
I make that motion.
Okay,
You already said it multiple times.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do we have a second to the motion?
Yes.
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion as stated, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We'll move on now to John, you wanted a roll call vote on that, but I think it's just a recommendation, so.
Yeah, since we didn't formalize it and lock
Perfect.
anything in, we're good with the voice vote.
Perfect. Now for the highlights of tonight's council meeting, we have with us our city recorder, who's going to give us a brief view of the new website for the city. And thank you so much for your work on that, Ryan, very much.
Yep.
So
How come it's not working, John?
This is it.
I'm pressing buttons.
it says Scott Hess at the top.
So you're saying that our website is the blue screen of death?
Surprise.
this is awesome, Ryan.
I know, isn't it?
How long did it
lovely?
take you to come up with this?
Turn it long enough, it becomes whatever you want it to be.
You want to try my mouse
Sure, this should be exciting.
and see if it'll reach up to here?
Does it reach? Oh, it does reach. Okay. This is our new city website. I'm gonna close out that. If I turn on this, well, it's okay. I'll wing it. So first, I want to give a huge shout out and a special thanks to Chad Roy Lance, who is a local photographer who specializes in landscapes. I would urge anybody listening and watching tonight and any of the guests here to view his website. He just has extraordinary photos, and he very kindly let us use a few, the ones that you see here, the night and the day photo of Ben Lomond. Those are both things that Chad has taken photos of, and we have a few more coming our way, which we're really excited about. When you scroll down, we have quick links. This here will lead you to the agenda and minutes, which I will show you here in just a moment. We had a request for the garbage day schedule to be put on a quick link so that residents can quickly see that information. We have a quick link to the Parks and Recreation Department page, the iWorks permit page, as well as the traffic ticket information for the Justice Court. When you scroll further down, we have our new calendar. This is one of my favorite aspects of the new city website. It's really nice because when you click on it, oh my, this is interesting when you're so far away. I promise it works better than this. Okay, so when you click on the calendar, you'll see that we have a master, we have a meeting one, we have events, and we have a separate one for senior center. This way it could be a little less overwhelming with all the different events you have to choose from, and you can clearly search out what you're looking for in the city. I'm going to return back to the home page now. Forgive me, I'm far away. Here is a little message from our mayor. We just put here a little sentence to entice people to go and look more at our new newsletters, which we will be archiving and putting here for people to view at their leisure. And in that, every month has a message from the mayor. Down here at the bottom is an employee login. Right now, for one reason or another, it is not working correctly, but when you click on this, you will enter your email address and we will be sending out the password. This will have all of the benefits information as well as all of the employee forms. This is something to note because this is where you'll put in agenda item requests. To clarify, as it is right now in the policy, when a citizen makes a request for an agenda item, that takes 2 council members okay. If one of you want an agenda item, you don't need an additional council members okay to put it on. You just need to log into the internet and fill out the form. That'll come to me in Joyce's office and we'll get it on the next agenda for you. There's also going to be, or there is, you just can't see it right now, there's going to be a social media update form as well as a website content form. So anything that you're wanting to see, if there's an event at the senior center that you want on the calendar, you would put that request in and we would add it to the calendar or Facebook, things of that nature. Does anybody have any questions so far?
If you clicked on departments, what would that look like?
So it opens a large tree showing you all of the departments. Do you guys have one that you specifically would like me to go over first?
If you looked at the budget,
Yeah, it's old.
what does that look like?
It's not
The
the
finance
latest one.
department, budgets and audits, that one?
Yeah, just curious.
And then here is how the document center look. You push down on here and there's all the documents available for you to see.
But it's not the latest one. I already noted that.
Says it is.
It's not.
It's not the- what? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, Chris. What?
Oh, I was just saying that the budget needs to be the final as opposed to the final proposed.
Okay, thank you for bringing that to our.
And it's also for RDA, same thing, because there were some changes.
Okay. I'll show you the agenda and minutes really quick so that you guys can be familiar with that. Those are filed by board or commission, city council by year. And then you scroll here and you can see the different options there. We have the agenda, the packet, the minutes, and the audio.
Are the minutes searchable now?
No. Well, That's a good question. I need to look into that.
Okay, I was gonna do it myself and then I forgot today, but
Are you talking like what,
Word,
control find type of thing? Or
no,
you mean
like
searchable?
when you do a search on, I don't know, parks, and then it comes up and hits the problem is that the minutes are just pictures or not
okay,
PDF,
okay.
searchable PDFs.
Sorry, now I lost my.
Sorry,
train of
that's all my
thought.
fault.
No, you're fine. I'm glad that you guys are asking questions. Under government, you'll see the different boards and commissions. There's your guys' pages. We have public notice. We have city projects. I wanted to kind of highlight that. The way we have that laid out looks really good. This is really touchy all the way over here. Projects.
I think it
Okay.
would be good when they click on governments, though, that it goes to government instead of the picture of the Gold Star Monument. Because people may say, they may not think to scroll down if it comes right to that. To me, it ought to go right to the page that they're seeking.
Okay. That would have to be a design change, but I can definitely talk about that with the website provider. Here under city projects, we've created just a little bit of information about the different projects and a picture. Did a really good job on all of those different projects there. Encourage you to go and look. Under community, this is where you'll find an about where I got information from the North Ogden City Museum. You can sign up for email notifications, the city calendar, citywide website surveys are there. We also did a local businesses list, which we sorted the local businesses in North Ogden by the type there so that you can see, and it has our address. For people new to North Ogden, that could be a beneficial thing. Transparency, that is where you will find all the information on elections, fee schedules, budgets, meetings. I wanted to show you guys in the public an online interfacing form, which we worked really hard on. We have moved all of our forms to an online format, this way that it will not only streamline it for the citizens of North Ogden, but also the staff. This is where they can come and make a grandma request for the city. Click on this button here and it brings you to a really clean, streamlined form. Ask for the pertinent information, and once they press submit, we get an email notifying us that we have had a form fill out and we can go in and take care of that. How do I get back? This?
It opened a new
I
tab.
can't see over there.
Yeah, it's a new tab. You could just X the tab.
Okay, sorry guys. Okay.
Oh, no.
The door.
Double G stuck.
Oh my gosh, I can't.
Is it extra touchy or something? I don't know, because
Like 3 people now have done this.
I just touched it. I just
something's up with it.
We're all in here.
Okay, one other thing that I wanted to show you
Don't let 'em know.
guys was the parks page. This is something else that we spent a lot of time implementing. It is now available for people to make online reservations for the park galleries online and to pay for those reservations. We have them sorted by park. We have all of the different information on the amenities and the locations so that people can look at it. And just similarly to the online forms, this will bring them to a calendar where they can select the date they're wanting to rent the park for, the times, and then it has an online form with all of the pertinent information that they'll need to have in order to make the reservation. Is there anything else that you specifically wanted me to go over on the website and introduce you guys to, or questions for me at all? I did run a search this morning just to see how it was. The search capability of this website is a lot better than our old one. I searched truth and taxation, RDA, and a few other just key terms. Minutes did show up, but I don't think they're searchable as you're saying. But I'll have to look into that for sure. It looks really great. It's working really great. If you guys have any questions as you're looking through it, navigating it, please give us a call. We'd be happy to help.
And the
Brenda
old,
loved it.
What?
Brenda loved it.
Mhm.
Excellent.
Yep. She had some suggestions about the website and maybe adding more information. I think going forward, one of my things that I'll do is add the agenda to all of the city council events. I think that's what she was alluding to, but right now when you pull up the city calendar, it just gives you the location and the address, not a whole lot of information on there, but that's a website design thing. So we're just gonna have to take in people's opinions of it and do what we can with it. So.
Looks really fantastic. I love that all of these things are digital now, that you can see, you can agenda item request, or that you can find the park reservation, the city projects. That's really informative. So many people are curious about these kind of things. Even just knowing what local businesses are, you've really done a lot of work and making this all digital and accessible. A really fantastic job.
Thank you so much. And I had a team of coworkers helping me. Thank you to our HR director, Katie, Bryce Nelson, and Dave Espinoza. They all were integral in getting this going. And it was a lot of fun. I hope everybody likes it. The goal is to streamline the process and better it for the residents as well as our city staff. So thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate that. Now we just need to get word out, right, to the public. Councilmember
one
Fuller?
suggestion I would have the hot link for the newsletter, like right dead center in the front someplace in that webpage, because I think everybody's going to be scrambling because, well, my old link, I thought something screwed up when I went to go look at North Ogden to get, I can't remember what it was just a few days ago. And I forgot that it's a new website now. So I don't know how to get the fact, does it link to, does the old website or old link to the new one?
It will. It's currently not. So you need to go to the
Okay.
northogdencity.gov domain to get there, not the .com.
But eventually it will.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Now move on to our council reports. Councilmember Del Paz, did you have anything you'd like to report this evening?
I don't have a lot. I just wanted to mention to residents that Chief Einan did a really good overview on Friday at our council retreat. And so I would just encourage, if anyone is interested to see the latest and greatest updates from the police department, they can go, I believe it's on YouTube already, right, John?
I have not uploaded
Oh,
the video,
okay.
but
It will soon
will
be
be.
uploaded to YouTube, so you can search it on YouTube for the budget retreat on last Friday, which I can't remember the date. But anyways, search that and you'll be able to get a good update on everything police. And I will come back with a better report next time.
Thank you. I think Chief Einan reported that we have 22 or 23 sworn officer positions filled, and that we're being pretty picky on who we're looking to hire, and expressed appreciation, I think, for the existing officers who are kind of putting in double duty, filling in when we're short. So Sergeant Mueller, if you'd pass that on, our appreciation to the other officers, that we are aware of, that they're pitching in and helping us, and we truly appreciate that. So thank you. Councilmember Severing, what would you like to report this evening on building and planning?
I actually texted Scott. He indicated that because he's been out, he doesn't have anything he needs to report today. Ryan is not here, so we'll just have to update everybody in another month. Unless John Call has something from the planning and building department that I don't know about.
the only thing is what we shared at the retreat, that it looks like our building numbers are low, our permit numbers, but our subdivision numbers are up. And so usually that means that next year or the year after, our building numbers will go back up again. So lots of stuff going on, and planning especially is having a lot of applications right now.
Thank
And we're appreciative of Ryan holding the fort down and surely wish Scott the best in his recovery. Councilmember Barker, did you have something you'd like to report this evening?
Yep. So I messaged Jamie and he replied back. So their mowing is all wrapped up for the year. So I guess they're done mowing lawns, if anyone was wondering. The park's bathrooms and sprinkler systems have been blown out and winterized. They've been working on holiday lights and preparation for a couple weeks, but their focus has now shifted to all holiday setup and leaf cleanup at the parks and prepping for snow removal. They got 2 seasonal employees left who have 2 weeks left, and then they will be done with seasonal help till spring.
Okay, thank you. Now move on to public comments. Those who would like to make any comments online or here in the building, you're welcome to do so. If you're online, please raise your hand. John will let us know. If you're here, please step up to the podium. And in both instances, if you'd state your name and if you're a resident of North Ogden, once again, just a reminder to keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. Not seeing any hands raised. Not seeing anyone rush to the podium. So we'll move on then to item number 11. This would be comments from staff. We'll start with staff, Ryan or John or Dave.
Interrupt him.
Susan's hand just went up if you're interested.
I am interested. If she put her hand up, let's allow her to talk.
Susan Kilborn, North Ogden City. Good to see all your bright and shiny faces tonight. I have a question. I have an idea of something that I think would be great to be on the North Ogden City website, and that's a link or something where patrons, be they individuals or corporations, whatever, could donate to a particular interest of theirs in North Ogden City. I, for one, know of something that I would go through a link to do that. And right now, I don't know how to do that. So just a suggestion, and happy Thanksgiving, you guys. I hope it's all wonderful for you and everybody in our beautiful city. And I wish you a good night.
Thank you, Susan. I think that's a good suggestion. I think particularly in light of the fact that I know the police department will be doing Sub for Santa here pretty soon, and that's something that people may be interested in participating in. So if we could add that, I think that'd be good.
And I thought there was a volunteer link too somewhere on the old website. I don't know if that's on the new one or not, but
That was on the old one. There was nothing on it. So, but we can add links, pages.
All right. John, Dave, anything else? David, step up to the podium here so we can hear you.
I just wanted to say she won't take credit for how hard she worked on that website, but between her and Katie, they put in hours upon hours for the last several months, and what that looks like is 100% on those two. So just wanted you guys to know that because she wouldn't do that, but.
Thank you, David.
Oh, yeah. Something the city's wanted for so long.
I'd like to criticize Dave for stealing my thunder, but
He hobbled faster.
it's good. That's one of the reasons Dave is so successful, is how good he is at recognizing those things, and not just the huge accomplishments, but the little things that people do as well. And then just as by way of announcement, or just work sessions, we're going to be trying to use the new conference room in the old council room, so that the council could be more in that around the table setting. With that, I think we recognized we're going to see how the budget's turning out on it, but we probably will be doing some AV upgrades just in-house. Me and Bryce will put some stuff together to get maybe another TV and some other things to make it function a little better. It won't be as fancy as the counties where there's a camera that moves to whoever's speaking, but we'll try and make it a little bit more easier so that people aren't having to like be backwards to a TV. People can, look at TVs all around the room, and the camera can get zoomed in on all of us really good. So anyways, and Dave's team did a huge amount of lifting over there to get that all together and squared away. And I think it's turning out really good. And I think I've mentioned before, I figure it's giving us, 5 or 10 years of employee growth before we'll need to start combining people into offices and making work not as pleasant. Sometimes when you're in that space right next to someone, it's a little harder to work. So it's really good as it is right now. And the mayor's getting an office back.
Wow. Incredible.
Wow.
Well, currently he's in the corner of my office.
Stacked in a pile of junk. Okay, anything else, John?
Nope.
Council member Pulver?
Just remember Santa's coming the 7th of December to North Ogden, so. Saturday.
On a fire truck?
On a fancy new fire truck.
A ladder truck?
Be on there, yeah.
Wow.
Hopefully less snow though this year, hopefully.
More snow.
More snow? Yeah.
I hope you also know that that is the date of the Big 12 championship game.
So I'll be in Vegas, or no?
Dallas.
Dallas.
There could be some competition on that particular date. Councilmember Dalpaz.
Just a update that the community might be interested in. The major sustained wind damage today. So the flag that is hanging over Coldwater Canyon in celebration of Veterans Day and throughout these couple weeks, it may get taken down if it sustains more damage over the next couple of days. So if you have the opportunity to hike up to it sooner than later, that would be better. And I'm sure that once they get it down, they will be able to get it back into good condition.
Thank you.
Can I just ask what the meeting schedule is like for the next 2 months with holidays?
Sure. So 26th is a meeting currently. The 3rd would be a work session. The 10th would then be a meeting. And then on the 12th is the city holiday party. And then I don't anticipate a meeting on the 24th of December.
Thank you.
And then we'd be all the way to the 7th for the next work session of January. So
City party's on the 12th, right? Did you say?
yes. Yeah, it's a Thursday night.
Anything else from the council? Councilmember Severie.
Yeah, I keep forgetting to bring this up, but you know what I would really love to have next year flying in front of the city offices? A one North Ogden flag. Would that be awesome?
So
I love that Mayor Berube had that insight when he became the mayor, and I think they're an awesome flag. That could be an awesome flag, and I'm just expressing my interest. So don't have to if you don't want to. It
We'll
would be
let the
cool.
council digest that. Thanks for bringing that up. Anything else? Seeing none, I would look for a motion to adjourn the meeting.